Hi everyone. Today video is on .NET 5 Blazor server CRUD operation using EF core. Okay. So in .NET there are two kind of Blazor application. One is Blazor server and one is Blazor WebAssembly. Okay. Today video is on Blazor server. Okay. Please remember that. Okay. So what is Blazor server? So Blazor server is a single page application. Okay. So using C#, now we can develop a single page application, just like uh, where we can create a single page application using JavaScript. Same way we can develop a single page application using the C#.NET. Okay, that's possible because of the Blazor. Okay, so Blazor server is a single page application. Okay, so at the server, a pre-rendered HTML output of the page will be delivered to the browser. So in Blazor server, so whenever user requested, okay, for that specific request, server will render all the data and use that HTML to the browser. So here you can understand one thing. There is no download or there is no loading of C#.NET Core into the browser of our into our user browser. Generally, in single page applications, what will happen? All JS files will be downloaded into the browser and application will run. So here in Blazor server applications, like a .NET MVC or Razor pages, how they will render they just outputs the HTML to the users, right? Same way Blazor server also outputs the HTML to the user, but Blazor server is a single page application because to navigate to another menu, we need not to be reload the entire page. Okay, everything will be handled by the Blazor server. So here is that point. If any update or event handling or JavaScript calls carried out by the signaler. Okay. Once the HTML output is rendered to the user application, suppose we click on navigation menu or any button click or any click event that has to change the UI of our application, then how it will work means Blazor server there is a signaler connection. Okay, there is a consistent signaler connection. Once the user receives the first HTML output, there will be a established connection between the user browser and the server. Okay, so any click event or any change event raised, this in the backside, this signaler server will ping to the server and server will respond with appropriate output, and that output will be gently updated into our UI in our browser without any reloading. So even we cannot notice that something happened. Such a smooth way, UI update will be taken care by the signaler connection. So here is that point. Any UI update or event handling or JavaScript calls carried out by the signaler connection to the server. Okay. So application updates are depends upon the continuous connection of the signaler. Okay. So mostly Blazor server application depends upon the continuous connection with the signaler with the server. Okay. So next, so Blazor server is a single page application that made of C#. Okay, this point we have already discussed. And since Blazor server only updates the pre-rendered HTML to the client, so there is no C# code downloaded into the browser. This point also we have discussed. And here there is one more point. I have mentioned, right? Blazor has divided into two templates. One is server and one is WebAssembly. So in WebAssembly, all the C# code will be downloaded and runs in the browser sandbox. Okay, so that is totally different thing. So if you want to learn about the Blazor WebAssembly introduction videos, you can check my playlist. I have already created a couple of videos on them. Okay, so that's about the Blazor. So if you observe the here is the hosting diagram. So Blazor server application runs on .NET EXE only, like any .NET Core application. Okay, see here layers .NET EXE, and in that runs on ASP.NET Core. Inside our Blazor application is running. Nothing but Microsoft had implemented in such a way that it integrated the concept of Blazor into the .NET Core only. Okay, so most of the initial life cycle requests to the Blazor server are same as the other .NET Core applications like MVC or Razor Page. Okay, so here you can see browser and application stable connection is established with the help of Signaler. Okay, so now let's understand the role of Signaler connection. So to understand the role of Signaler connection, here I have a image. Okay. So think like this is a Blazor server application. Okay, so for every request, if user requested something to our Blazor application, Blazor application will create a UI state. Okay, so that state will be helpful to establish the something like state with our browser. Okay, so our application is a single page. To maintain some state, what server side application will do, it will create a one UI state memory. So from that UI state memory, our application will always remains with the state connection. Okay, so if the connection is disconnected by some internet issue or any network issue, it again reconnects with server and maintain or display same output to the user without any error message like connection lost, something like that. Because from that UI state, it will fetch the all necessary state of our application into the browser. So that's how Blazor application will work. Okay, so Signaler connections will be helpful. Here you can see this is the user and requesting the application. Per request, there will be a separate UI state. Okay, if the by any means we lost some, our connection is a disconnected Signaler connection, it again retries to connect with the application, and if it is successfully connected to the application, it will get the old state from the server UI state memory. Okay, okay, so let's see. A Blazor application works over Signaler connection that we know, and a Blazor server application creates a UI state memory. Okay, at the server, say, which will be interrupted by the Signaler connection. Just we have discussed it, right? If a Signaler connection got interrupted, okay, then client tries to maintain the same state of the application by initiating a new Signaler connection and uses the existing UI state memory at the state server. So you can understand, right? If the connection is disconnected, our client side in browser, our application retries to establish a new connection with the server by the signaler. And if it finds the new existing memory state, it will retrieve the old state of the application into our browser as well. Okay. So app routing changes, event changes, data changes, everything will be carried out by the signaler connection without any page delay. You know this point as well. Okay. So here one more point, there is each browser screen or a browser tab has its own signaler connection channel and US state at the application. So each browser or a browser tab acts like an individual request. So there is one thing we need to remember that one browser tab is one user request to the signaler server. That's why navigate, we never do our navigation to the new page tab. Okay, we should navigate within the application only so that we can maintain our old state. Okay, that's why one rule we have to maintain is any navigation we must do within our page itself. Okay, so that's how Blazor server works, and that is the overview on the Blazor server. how it works, and how signaler connection will established. Okay, I hope this gives some idea on it. Okay, next thing is Blazor application entirely builds upon Blazor client components. Okay, so Blazor server application builds on top of Blazor component. So a Blazor component is a file created like example.razor. So file extension of the Blazor component is .razor. So this Blazor component can write both C# and Razor syntax in single page itself. Okay. So, but if you want to split, we can split like this. Example.razor is for Razor syntax. Example.razor.cs is for C# code. If you want, there is an option to split the file into two files, just like a code behind file if you want. Okay. So that's one of the main important thing we have to know before we are jumping into our application. Okay. So Uh, before jumping into creating our sample application demo, I want to mention that this is my blog. So entire session that what I'm going to explain has already made as a blog. So the link to this blog will be available in the description. So if anyone wanted to go through the blog, you can check the blog as well. Okay. So let's jump into creating the application. So in general, most preferred way of doing .NET development is using the Visual Studio, right? And there is one more option like Visual Studio Code Editor. Okay, so since I am using Visual Studio Code Editor, I am using the .NET CLI commands to creating the projects, because Visual Studio Code don't have any UA representation for that creating the .NET templates. Okay, and one more thing, if you are using the Visual Studio 2019, you must use the Visual Studio 2019 latest version, because that version only supports the .NET 5 application, because other previous versions don't have compatibility to build the .NET 5 applications. Okay, so let me create the .NET 5 Blazor server application. So this is the CLI command. So .NET represents .NET Core, and new means we are expecting to create a new project, and Blazor server is the my template name, and -n should be prefixed with my name of the project. So this -n represent the flag for the name of the project. So this is my name of the project. Okay. So this is the command of .NET CLI. So my application has successfully created. And one point I want to mention for the Visual Studio users. So if you are using Visual Studio, in the UI, you can see a template name like Blazor Server App like this. Okay. So please select that one only, because there are two options. One is Blazor WebAssembly and Blazor Server. Our demo is on Blazor Server app. Okay. Let me open my project in Visual Studio Code Editor. Okay, so this is my Blazor Server application. So one, go to CS Pros. See here my targeted framework is .NET 5. Okay, framework. So before going to jumping into creating our sample, I want to walk through the project, because there are few things that we must aware before jumping into the application, because we need to understand how our application will work. Okay. So first go to startup.cs file. Okay. So in startup.cs file, there are key services that are registered to support the dependency injection. Some are like Razor pages, and some are like server-side Blazor services. Okay. And next thing is middlewares. So middlewares are nothing but the code that execute for every request sequentially. So after this execution of middleware only, our main code will get executed. Okay, here one thing we need to focus mainly on use endpoint. So use endpoint is the triggering point to navigate to the appropriate code that has to be executed. Okay, so here there are two kinds of endpoints registered. That is one for map Blazor Hub. So this map Blazor Hub nothing but for signaler communication. Okay, this establishes the channel for the signaler communication. And next thing is map to the fallback page. So here you can observe there is no Blazor routing. Okay, only here Blazor hub means this is for signaler hub. It represents. And see, if you hover on here, you can see Microsoft ASP.NET Core dot Signaler hub. Okay, so that's for the signaler hub. And there is no special routing for our Blazor requests. But here there is one more route configure, that is fallback. Fallback means if nothing is matched, just go to this. From there also, just they have given some host file. So where this is host file. So this host file resides inside the pages. So framework can automatically searches for the folder like pages, and inside it will search for the host file. Okay, so this is the main file we have to understand. So if you observe this host.cs HTML, this is a Razor file, normal Razor file. .ch HTML means Razor, and .razor means Blazor component. Okay, please remember .ch HTML means Razor page. .razor means Razor, means that is Blazor component. Okay, so this is normal CHTML has been given in the startup. Startup. This file is given. So this is the, if you observe, this is the entry file, header and body tag you can observe. Okay, till now there is no Blazor exist here. Okay, so but in this, if you observe, there is a component and the name of the component is passed here. So this component is nothing but the Blazor component. So this app means nothing but, if you scroll down here, you can see the app.razor. So from here, Blazor code starts get executed. Okay. So in host file, what we have, we are loading the Blazor component, that is app.razor. So from this point, a Blazor code will get executed. So here you can observe, see, router means this is one component. This is one default component. So this means it will handle the Blazor router. Okay. So Blazor server router. Okay. So from this we can understand there are two kind of routings involved. Up to here normal .NET Core routing. Okay. Since any route comes, will cannot identify anything here. So it will fall back to host file. So host file ultimately loads app component. So inside app component, there is a router component. So this router is like a sub router internally. So internally, this router helps to manage the Blazor components. Okay. See, the file name extension .razor means Blazor component. So inside pages folder, all are .razor. Okay. CSHTML means that is Razor page. .razor means Blazor component. Okay. So all Blazor components will be handled here. So this is the routing Blazor component. Inside of this, there are two types of components. Okay. So if the user sent a route found, then it will go here. Okay. If no route found, it simply displays the message here. There are some default components. No found, not found is one default component. Found is one default component. Route view is another default component. Okay. So that's how Blazor server component gets executed. And here you can see layout. Here also there are some templates like layout, just like in any MVC or Razor page applications. So these layouts also Razor components only. Sorry, Blazor components only. In shared you can see main layout. So this layout is defaultly loading here as a default layout. And then navigation layout, this is used in the main layout. Okay. So that's how app.razor will help to trigger the execution point. Okay. So let's run and understand much better. Okay. So this is the default template that bundled with our project when we create Blazor server application. So if you click, see how nicely we are transitioning between the components without loading the page. Okay, and if you inspect, there will be always a signal or connection that's going to happen. Okay, so where is that signaler? Server, this is JS file, and I think this is JS. So see here, binary components. Sorry, binary messages. This is signaler communication. For suppose, okay. So see, on every event there is a communication is going to server and fetches the data. See, some event has raised. Okay, some data is coming back. Everything you can check here. Everything will be taken care by the CLR communication. So this is encrypted code, so we cannot observe that much clearly the messages. Okay, so everything will be taken care by this signaler only. Okay, so coming to the routes. So for suppose I am in counter, right? If I reloaded the page, what will happen? In the server, first where it will go? It's go for the startup. So startup, is there any uh, route configured like counter? A counter only. So counter, no, there is no route configured here. But endpoint, there is a fallback route. So fallback loads host file. So it will load the host file. So host file loads app file. So app file, there is a internal router. So that internal routing is nothing but the Blazor component routing. So it can identify this route, okay, and loads that specific component. So if you go to counter.razor, that is a Blazor component. See, this is internal routing carried out by the Blazor component. So to determine a route, we must be prefixed with the @ page director. So that is how Blazor component will work. Okay. So I think we have to know imports.razor. So imports.razor is to specify our namespaces so that we can easily use any entity or a class directly in the components without any giving any big names including the namespaces. So here we can register all common namespaces, and www route folder is for adding the CSS and JSS and images or icons or any static files you need to add must be go under the www root folder, and app setting.json for the configurations, layouts or master layout Blazor component. So like JavaScript only, like any Angular application or any view, like that only you can create the CSS file like razor.css. So automatically, when that component loads, automatically that corresponding CSS file gets loaded into the and applied into the UI. Okay, think that's enough for the walkthrough regarding the project. Okay, now I want to create some CRUD sample. So to do the CRUD sample, I am going to use the Entity Framework core. Okay. So what is Entity Framework core? Entity Framework is a object relational mapping. So it is like a bridge between the application and the database. Okay. So how we have to do? So normally in SQL we will have tables. So to consume them into our application using the Entity Framework, what we have to do means every table we must have a normal C# class, and that class should contain property names that should match with the table columns. So Entity Framework can map those .NET C# classes to SQL queries because it has some expressions, and with the help of LINQ, it will generate the C# LINQ expressions and convert them into raw SQL queries and execute them over the database. Okay, on executing, once the results is fetched, those raw SQL result data is converted back to the C# classes and returned back to our API application. That is the advantage of using the EF core. That object conversion or object mapping, it is very easy and flexible to work with the NT framework core or framework. So it is like a bridge between them. Okay, so there should be one parent class in our application code that is called DB context. So what is DB context means? I have mentioned, right, every table should have a appropriate class in our application. So these all classes should be registered in this DB context class. So this DB context acts like a database in our application. So it can have capability to communicate with the database. Okay, so that's about the NT framework core. So, and we are going to use the approach like code first with existing database. Means so we are going to use not creating a new database. We are going to use the existing database only using the code first technique. Okay. So for that, first thing is I want to create the table class. So for our sample, I have already created one table that is like gadgets. So here is the SQL script you can find in my blog. So if you want to follow me or if you want to create another table also, that is fine. If you or else if you want to follow me, just copy the script into your SQL management studio and just run it, and the table gets created into your SQL server. So once created, we are good. So I hope we have created a table because I have already created the table. So first what I will do, I am going to create the uh, C# class for this gadgets table. Okay, so let me create it. So folder like, so data folder is already exist, right? Inside data folder, what I will do, I will create a folder like entities. Okay, inside folder, in this entity folder, I am going to create all my table classes. So this is my table class gadgets. So what I have mentioned, the properties of the class should be columns of my table. So let's add them. So these are all the properties of my table. I am going to add them as a columns in properties. So these are the columns in my table. I am adding like a properties in my class. Okay. So this is the table class. And I have mentioned, right, there is a parent class that is a DB context class. So let's create the DB context class. So DB context class I am directly creating in the data folder, and my old DB context, and this name for the DB context must match with our database. That is not mandatory, but that is the recommended way. That is the coding standard, I can say. Okay. Okay. So for now, this is a normal class. So we have to make it as a DB context class. So to make it as a DB context, our class must inherit the DB context. So that is available in the NT framework core package. So now we have to install two NuGet packages, like one is NT framework core obviously, and another one is, since my database is SQL, I need to use the NT framework core extension for SQL database. Okay, so let's install them. So one NuGet package is Microsoft.NT framework core. Another package is Microsoft.NT framework core.SQL server. Okay, so what we will do, let's install them. So Visual Studio uses copy from the package manager. Okay, so this is for .NET CLI. So let's install the package. Now install SQL Server extension package. Okay. So both the packages have successfully installed. Now let's make our plain class into DB context class. So our context class should be like this. It should inherit the DB context. So let's import the namespaces. So Microsoft NT Framework Core. Okay. So whenever the my old DB context instance is created, there are some few configuration options that should be passed to the constructor, and then from that constructor we are going to pass to the base class. Base class is nothing but DB context. And one more thing, I have mentioned, right, all the table class should be registered in the DB context. So they should be registered like this by wrapping around the DB set. So DB sets represents like a table, whereas DB context represents the database. Okay. So now let's add function string for our database. So for this demo, I am going to use the app settings.development.json. So for real time, function string must be saved in a secret file. Okay, so that is a different topic. For development, it is okay to add them in the JSON file. So like this, we must add. So connection string is a JSON property that is known by the framework or .NET Core framework itself. And my old DB context is my custom name. You can give any custom name, and there you have to assign your connection string value. Okay. Now, to inject my DB context wherever I want, I need to register in the DI service. For that, go to startup. Okay. So here I want to register my database. Okay. So our registration must be like this. And if you observe options in the past options, we are loading our connection string from the JSON settings. So these are the options will be passed into the constructor on creating the instance of our DB context, and they are passed to our base context. Okay, so that's it about creating the DB context and the classes using the EF core. Okay, so now go to the pages. Pages are nothing but the Blazor components. So what I will do, I am going to use the index.razor page for my to implement my example. So let's remove them all. Okay. Okay. So here some div like this and code block. So this code block is to write the C# code. So what I will do, I will. So first thing is I want to do read operation because I have some dummy data in my database table. So I am going to fetch them and render them on using the bootstrap table. So for that, I will create a variable. That variable going to store my result from the database. So public sub. So to avoid namespaces, let's import my namespace into app.razor. Sorry, imports.razor. So I'm registering both the data folder and my entities folder. Okay. It is, sorry, data.entities. Okay. Now here, see, now it is recognizing my class. Okay. And my property name is all gadgets. And initially I am going to assign empty collection. Okay. So data must be loaded when this component is loaded. So there are some lifecycle methods. So I'm going to use lifecycle method like public. All right. Protected. All right. Async. So on in see here some lifecycle methods are where we can see. So I can use on initialize async method. Okay. Async. So what I will do here, I want to get the results and I want to assign it to this variable. So I have to inject uh, my old DB context, right? So using inject directive, I can load my old DB context. DB context. Okay. So I have my DB context available. So what I will do, all gadgets equal to my whole DB context gadgets dot to list. So to get the to list async benefit, I need to register dot into framework core sync. Now we will get to list async. Yes, and it should be awaited. Okay, that's it. My C# logic for loading the data. Data is loaded. I want to bind it to the bootstrap table. So let's go to get some bootstrap table. And already bootstrap.cs is loaded into the host file. So let me show that. So here is the bootstrap.cs file. Okay. Okay. Under docs. So after going to docs, so inside of the content tab, you can go tables. So I want to use this table. I want to use. So copy that. Okay. Go to our index Blazor component. Okay. Now let's copy the content to T body. Okay. So I will name my column names has a table headings. So gadgets. Okay. And ID, product name, brand. Okay. Cost. Let me add one more th for type. Okay. So those are my table headers. So I'm going to use Razor syntax for each, that is at the rate for each, and here I can say all gadgets. Okay, so I can remove this one and copy this into the for loop. Okay, so that our row gets iterated. Okay, so at the rate item dot id at the rate item dot product name the rate item and item dot cost. Okay, I think that's our read operation. So very simple, where we have loaded our data into our lifecycle method, that is the Blazor lifecycle method, that is on initialize async, and assign to the property and loop that property into table rows. Okay, we are good. Let's check the output. So retry. Okay, I have stopped my application. Let's run our application again. So this is my table. So let me get the latest record on top, use some sorting. Okay, sorting by ID. Okay, just save. See, everything is carrying. And if you observe the network calls, and in the network calls, reload and the Blazor server. So this is the JS that are going to load our signaler connection. So where this JS means, I have forgot to mention it. In host file only, it is already added by the framework. So this is the JS file that is going to establish the signaler connection. That is one more key point we have to know. And this is the Blazor connection. You can see, right? Some uploads, downloads in the bytes, it is carried out. Okay. So there is no code downloading or anything here. You can see by expanding the source code, only JS files and everything, and remaining everything will be carried out by the signaler connection. This signaler connection. Okay. So this is the lightweight, but only thing is a signaler connection. And there is a, you might think signaler connection may take more resources. Yes, absolutely. But Microsoft has delivering a most scaled up signaler connection via Azure. So for real-time devs, that is the good choice to go with the Blazor server with the Azure signaler services. So they are very scaled efficiently. Okay. And this is our read operation where I am going all the data, right? So we are good with read operation in our index.blazor component. So now I want to do create operation. Okay. So create operation, I want to add a button here, something like, okay, type of button plus btn primary, and this is my add button. Okay. So this is my add button, right? So on clicking on this add button, I want to open a bootstrap model. Bootstrap model is nothing but a pop-up. So in that pop-up, we will have our form fields. So those form fields on entering our data must save to the data. So now on clicking this button, what should happen? Our form must be open. So opening the form is nothing but Bootstrap. So to open a Bootstrap, we have to write some JavaScript code. So in Blazor, there is an advantage that we can invoke the JavaScript code from our C# code. That is called JavaScript interoperability. Blazor JavaScript interoperability. Blazor supports JavaScript communication from our C# code as well. Okay. So first, what I will do, I am going to create a JavaScript code that invokes the uh, model pop-ups. Okay. So what I will do, in www root folder, I have static files must go here, right? So let's create JS file. Inside JS folder, let's create my JS file like that app.js. Okay. So I have created some code snippet for opening JavaScript code for opening and closing of the Bootstrap model pop-up. So let me copy paste here. So here what I'm having, like a global property JavaScript code, I have two method options. That is, one is open model and close model. Here we are going to pass the Bootstrap model pop-up HTML ID attribute value. So based on that, it will open and close it. So this is written like a generic way, so that any model pop-up can be opened and closed using this code. So here I am using some jQuery, right? And also using Bootstrap model pop-up, we need to add some JS files because by default, uh, Blazor only adds uh, what I can say, bootstrap min.css only, no JS file. Because JS file is only for few things like power and bootstrap something, some of those kind of components only required. So now I want to add the bootstrap.js and the jQuery min.js. So here is the bootstrap website. Go to home, docs, and in the introduction, you can see here. So copy this, okay, and paste it over here. Okay, and I have mentioned I need to install jQuery as well, right? So jQuery CDN, go over there. Okay, so copy the minified version of CDN, paste over. And also I have created app.js trace. I have to reference that as well. So let's add that one as well. SRC. So www root file, right? I can specify internal folder that is JS and app.js. Okay. So I'm good with establishing the JavaScript code into my application. Okay, now I need to, once this button is clicked, I need to invoke the pop-up. So for that, I will create a one method that like public void open create or update model. Okay, so the same model will be I am going to use for updation and creation also. So that's why I have named my method like this. Okay, so for this creation and updation, what I will do, I am going to, okay, so for this creation, when it is called, it must be open my pop-up, right? So to interact with JavaScript, we must inject JS runtime like IJS runtime. Okay, so JS runtime. Okay, so now I can use that method. Okay, JS runtime. Here there are method. I want to invoke void. So nothing I am going to receive from the JavaScript. So I am invoking void method. So here uh, two parameters. So first one is name of my JavaScript method. Second parameter is parameters to the JavaScript method. Okay. First parameter is nothing but I want to open, right? This is the method and where it is inside of the global, right? So I have to specify like global dot open model. And second parameter is nothing but the array of parameters for this method, this JavaScript method. Here only it need bootstrap model ID. So single parameter, if I need to pass the ID name that I am going to add, I need to pass here. So first I have to do what? I must add the bootstrap model pop-up, right? And it should be awaited. Complete those things. Okay. Now let's add the bootstrap model pop-up. So for that, go to bootstrap. So in the components, go to models. Okay. So copy this one. Okay. Paste it here. And from here, so I want to name my bootstrap model. So ID is like creator update model. So this ID value must be passed here. Okay, and let's register the click event to the button. So in Blazor server, click event at the rate on click, and I can pass my method name. What is my method name? Open create model. Okay, so let's test whether the model is opening or not. Model pop. Button color BTN small p. We have given capital. Okay, my button is here. So let me click it. See, my model pop-up has successfully opened. Okay, so I want to do some changes. So I want to add the changes dynamically. So what I will do, I will create a property like in title, create or update model title. So this property, I am going to use my title header of my model. So here you can say at the rate and that property value. So let me remove it. So on clicking, I will assign create a title model equal to uh, create a new gadget. Okay, and let's create some body with the fields inside of my body. Okay, so for that I have the snippet code. So let me copy paste it here. So those form. So these are the normal form HTML form bootstrap form fields only. So this is for product name text box. This is for brand text box. This is cost text box and type text box. So now I want to enable two-way binding so that I can add some data to the form or fetch the data from the form. For that, what I will do, I will create a property like public gadgets only, right? My form data. So form payload. Okay. So this payload, I am going to use it in this form for two-way binding. So to do that for two-way binding, we need to use rather attribute like bind at the rate bind. Okay. And at the rate bind. So which property I want to bind? Form payload dot product name. Okay, like that all input field must be bind property enabled. Okay, let copy paste to every field and change the property like type, cost, and brand. So now with these changes, now my form is ready. So let's see the form. So let me click on the add button. See, I have got nice title and my form. So now I need to work on these buttons. One is on save changes. I need to save it to the database and reflect into the table. On close, I need to dismiss the pop-up. So first let's work on change. Along with create, we will do one thing like form payload equal to new gadgets. Why I'm doing means here there will be if condition for create and update. For now, I'm using for create only, right? So for update and for update, you can understand why I am assigning the empty object. So if empty object means we will show the empty form. Okay. So let's assign for like that now. And let me create one more method like async save task and create. Sorry, I will name like save. Okay. And here what I will do, my old db context dot gadgets dot add form payload, right? And my old db context dot save changes async. All right, now successfully saved. And finally, I want to insert the record on top of the all gadgets property. So what I will do, I will insert at the top of the index form field, form payload, right? And I can assign this to my save changes button at the rate on click equal to save. So now let's write code for my close. So for close, what I can do, I will create a public async task close model. I want to use this model, any kind of model to close. Okay. So to do that, so it will take an input parameter like string model ID, HTML ID value I want to get here. Okay. So now I can use like this. Okay. I can use this close model method as a first parameter and the ID value will be my model ID. So I need to bind this to my close method. So close model. So at the rate on click. Now I cannot do like this and pass value, opening braces and pass value. We need to do bit differently when we have a proper input values to the methods. That is like we need to raise a delegate like this. Okay. And here I can specify the close model. I can pass the model name. You here single quotes. Okay. And now what is my ID? Model ID. My model ID. Not this one. This one. Remove this button. So I am passing the model ID value. You can ignore this squiggly line in Visual Studio. Intelligence unable to identify it. And one more thing, I need to call this method here as well. Once saved, I need to close my pump, right? So I can do close model and pass the same value, ID value. Think we are good with read op create operation. So it should be awaited. So what we are doing here after creating, I am closing the pop-up, simply calling this method. Okay, so here only bit different thing we have seen is when we have input parameters, we must call like a delegate our method. So this is a event, click event, so that you can pass event expression to your code if you want. Okay, so let's run the application. So click on ID and I want to create OnePlus node, brand OnePlus, something like 20K, and it is a mobile. So I want to click on close. Save changes close. Sorry. Click on save changes so that record will be added. See, new record is updated, OnePlus node, everything. And if you click again, see, empty form. And if I close on click button, it will close us. So we are finally interacting with our JavaScript code from the .NET code in Blazor server and opening the pop-up and filling the pop-up without loading anything. Everything will be taken care. And this is the best example to watch the signal or communication. Okay, go to network and I add something like OnePlus Node 2. Okay, 20,000 and type reload, go to all and go to Blazor server. So this is my Blazor communication, right? So what I will do, I'll click here. So see this click event also will goes like this to the server. See, and I have mentoring like node 3, OnePlus node and 20,000 and mobile. And if you observe here, so click on save changes. See some values. Can't show exact form location, but my form data will be posted and this code, this entire code will be executed at the server by the signaler. Opening the pop-up, either opening pop-up also JavaScript click right, sorry, Blazor click right. That also go to server and opens. And close model also go to server and open. So like this, everything will be handled by the signaler. Okay. So now let's focus on edit operation. So for edit, what I will do, every record must be edited, right? So let's add one more column like H actions and TD. Okay. Here I will add a button. Okay. Plus TN primary TTN. For this click event, I want to open pop-up, right? Whenever edit button clicks, similar to like add button, it should open same pop-up. Okay. So for that, what I will do, I will pass on clicking pop-up. I will pass the some ID value, gadgets ID value. Okay. So for that, to this model, I will pass the gadget ID. Okay. So now it has input property, right? Now invocation must be changed in here. So need to change like at the rate. Okay. We know when method has input parameters, we call like this. And for create, I simply pass value like 0. Okay. And I will update my model open pop-up. If gadget ID equal to 0, then this is code for creation. Okay. Because I am leaving behind this because this is the common for everything. Model should be open. And if more than 0 means that is update. At that time, what I have to do, I will update the title of my form, right? So this is my title and form field also I can update now. See, now what I will do, my old DB context gadgets. I'm going to filter the database to get the ID related data so that my form will gets populated with the data from the database, right? So generally this will generate the SQL query, link to SQL query. Okay, should be awaited. So that's it. Changes for my open create model. So in edit button, I can invoke the click method for that button. So here, so on click equal to, we know we need to raise a delegate, right? So edit, so I can pass the item dot ID. Okay, think I am good. So this will populates and opens my pop-up with the form data. Okay, let's see that. Okay, I haven't given any text for my button. Let's give in some text. So give like edit. So let me click on edit. See, form is populated with the form data. Now, if I click on save changes button, I must update the record. Okay. So for that, I need to update the save method. So go to save method. Okay. If form payload dot id equal to 0 means that is new record. So for that, what I will do, I will copy this code and add here. Okay, else means update. So for update, what I will do, update my old DB context dot gadget. I can use update method directly on context and pass form data and can call save changes. And here I need to remove the old data from the all gadgets. So all gadgets equal to all gadgets where id equal to form payload dot id. So I want accept this record everything dot to list. And anyway, finally update record will be added here. Okay. So that's all about the changes we need to do in our save changes. So I hope this will work. Let's go to our sample. So let me update this 709. It has zero cost, right? Update it to some 10,000. See, I am updating 7009 record. Save changes. See, 700 on top, updated with the cost. Okay, so from this we can understand our update method also successful. Okay, so we have done with create, read, update. Now only pending is delete. So for delete, what I will do, so to delete, I want to add another bootstrap model for confirmation. Okay, like you want to delete or not. So for that, what I will do, let's add one more bootstrap model. So for that, go here and copy this. Again, same bootstrap model, but this is for deletion. So add it here, and here there is a button which we don't need. And here I want to change my ID to delete gadget. Okay, and here I want to don't want any title or button. Let's add title. Confirmation, and inside body let me add some h4 tag, and are you to please confirm to delete. Okay, so for this close button also I can use a previous close button I have mentioned, right? We can use it is like a common method. So paste it over here. Only changes ID must be changed. So I'm changing ID. Okay. So now first thing is I want to write a method for opening the model pop-up for delete confirmation. So let's write a method like public task delete open delete confirmation model. Okay, here I want to take input parameter of my ID, which record I want to delete, int gadget ID. Okay, and here I want to do one more thing, like I want to create one more property like public int gadget ID to delete. So initial is 0. So I will use this to assign value here. Gadget to delete equal to gadget ID. And finally, I want to open my model. So for opening the model, you can use this. And only thing I need to change is I need to pass the appropriate ID. So what is the new bootstrap model ID? Delete gadget. So please pass it here. Okay. So this method must be opened when I click on delete button. So add delete button for each row. I can use this one. Okay, in danger. Okay, and what is my method? New method name. Information. Okay, where here? I think now I can get confirmation model. So let's check. So we got delete button. Let's click on delete. See, I'm getting the pop-up, and the close also works. Only thing is save changes do nothing. So here it is not save changes, it must be delete button. So let's work on that button. Okay, this is a danger, and confirm delete. Okay, and for this I need to create one more method for deleting the record. So public async task confirm delete. Okay, so where gadget to delete equal to my old DB context gadgets where id equal to, we know we have stored the value in this variable star default async. We are getting the data. Okay, wait. Okay. If gadget not equal to null, so then what we are doing, we are simply remove it from the gadgets and save the database, right? And remove it from the our variable. Okay, to list. And finally, I want to close the model pop-up. So I can close this one, not this one. There is a common method, right? So close model. So yeah, write it. And what is the ID? Delete gadget. I think that's will end of our demo. And I need to register it. At the rate on click. So to properties, I can directly assign. So save it. So let's delete this top record OnePlus Node 3. So let's change the label name. Still I am using edit for delete also. Okay. So okay, now better. And close. That's working. Delete. Now confirm delete. Top record I am deleting. See, record is deleted. If you have any doubt, if you reload also, it won't come. See, I will delete this one also. 19002 deleted. So we have successfully implemented a sample application implementing all CRUD operation in Blazor server, that too in latest .NET 5 framework. Okay, I hope this video has delivered some useful information to you all. If you like my video, please do subscribe to my channel. We will meet you soon with new videos. Until then, signing off.